life I felt like the only person who was suffering. And then I realized there are hundreds and thousands of people who suffer the same thing. That for me was the biggest therapy, was to actually realize that I'm not on my own. The truth is, I don't know that there is a cure, but the one thing that I learned was I was at my worst when I had nobody to talk to. Every time I went for help and a door was slammed in my face, or I was told that it was all in my head, or that it's just who I am, or it's my hormones, every time that line of communication got closed, it just made things worse. And what I've learned about myself is that talking is the most important part. Find that line of communication. Find somebody to talk to, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, anyone, just to be able to say the words out loud. That is the only thing that helps me today, is being able to say, you know what, I am not okay, and I just need to talk about it. My name's Nadia Hussein, and I suffer with panic disorder. I spent my whole life thinking that I was just a moody person, the moody sister, the moody friend, the moody daughter. I'm happy one day and I'm sad the next. And I don't know why, but it's just who I am. I thought it was my personality. So there was a point when I was 18 years old and I was working and I just physically stopped. I was in the middle of work and I just couldn't physically move anymore, and I couldn't talk, I couldn't say anything, everything just clammed up, and I knew then that there's something not right, and I had to go to the doctors. Yeah, I remember that was my first time I'd ever had a panic attack, and ever since, the fear of having a panic attack is something that stayed with me forever. There are times where they happen every day, and I can't get out of bed, and I can't sleep either, and I physically can't function as a human being. And there are other times where I can go a month, maybe, I don't think I've ever gone 2 months without a panic attack, between having my first one at 18 and being 33 now. So it's been with me for a very long time. It was when I went on the internet and I went into some forums and reading all the threads about all the different things that have happened to different people. Like my whole life, I felt like it was just me. I was the only person who was suffering. And then I realized there are hundreds and thousands of people who suffer the same thing. That for me was the biggest therapy, was to actually realize that I'm not on my own. The truth is, I don't know that there is a cure, but the one thing that I learned was I was at my worst when I had nobody to talk to. Every time I went for help and a door was slammed in my face, or I was told that it was all in my head, or that it's just who I am, or it's my hormones, every time that line of communication got closed, it just made things worse. And what I've learned about myself is that talking is the most important part. Find that line of communication. Find somebody to talk to, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, anyone, just to be able to say the words out loud. That is the only thing that helps me today, is being able to say, you know what, I am not okay, and I just need to talk about it.
Hey everyone.
Documentary.
Welcome.
I'm selfish because I want to.
Hey everybody. Hi. Can I get a hi? Can anybody hear me?
Hi, I can hear you. Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome everyone. Oh, I can see our wonderful speakers. Dr. Kiki, Dr. Sylvia.
Hi, Dr. Ty.
Great. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy that we can actually have this chat to mark the World Mental Health Day. Thank you so much for being here. If you can just unmute your mic pretty quickly and just tell me how you're feeling this morning. And you can just put it in the chat box and just say, oh, I'm feeling well, feeling fine. And it's Mental Health Day that we are marking. So it's just okay to say how you feel. Please, I would love to know. I'm feeling well.
Yes. Good morning. I'm in high spirits this morning. Thankfully, I woke up on the right side of my bed because it's not like that every day. So I'm good. I'm happy this morning.
So good. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Fitz. Hi, Dr. Tayo.
My name's Nadia Hussein, and
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Thank you for the invite. I'm feeling very good. Thank
Amazing.
you. It's good to see your lovely faces.
Same here. You look great too.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Hi.
Yes, I'm feeling okay, although I'm not really happy to be in my car. But I didn't think about the difference of the time. So I was planning to go to the office, but anyway, it's okay. Nice to be here and nice to meet all of you.
You're welcome. Whichever way the car works, you sound just fine, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Dr. Sylvia. I can see Gloria as well. Hi, Gloria.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I feel good this morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy. Hi, Adeshawa.
Hi, good morning, honey.
Hi, how are you? What's up? How are you doing?
I'm very fine. I'm good. So nice to be here. Don't mind my camera.
Okay, so we'll just give you extra 2 minutes for people to just join. So it's just 2 minutes and we'll begin at 11:10 sharp. Thank you. Hi, Bukun. I think we're pretty few, so it's okay to just unmute your mic and say hi. We're few for now, before everybody comes in. Hi, Mr. David, are you there?
The truth is, for a while now.
it's good to see you. It's so great to be with everyone again.
Yeah, it is.
How have you been?
I'm not good. I haven't been good. The truth is, for a while now, I feel like I've been stuck in a dark place. I can't remember feeling. No one really hears me, you know? I'm good. Yeah, things are good.
Hi, everyone. So welcome back. Thank you so much for that short video. Thank you. Okay, so without much ado, let's just hop into the main matter for the day. Once again, you're very welcome. Good morning. If you're just joining, you're welcome here. It's still morning time in Nigeria. And so we are going to begin today with an opening remark and welcome address by Isatu Balde. So let me just quickly run through her short profile before she comes on to give the welcome address. Isatu is the program's director of the Girls Talk Foundation at the University of Gambia. She earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and digital media. She currently works with Gambia International Airlines as a cargo import and export officer. Her work as a mentor has enabled her to successfully coach young people at Starfish International, an organization dedicated to promoting education for girls. She's also passionate about mental health, which motivated her to write her final year dissertation on myths and health issues of mental disorders in the Gambia. So, Ms. Isatu, please just come on and give a welcome address of today. Thank you. Hi, Isatu. Okay. I'm not sure if you can hear me, perhaps network issues, but please, if you can hear me, just come on and give us a welcome address. And let me just run through the house rules for today. I just love everyone to keep their microphones muted so that we will not have any interference. And then if there are any questions, we have time allotted for questions and answers. So we would just love to take time, in that session. If you have questions, just jot them down, and then you can get to ask the speakers one after the other. And also, please, you can share links with people who you think should be here. Your loved ones, your friends, neighbors, even enemies, please. This is very, very important. Perhaps some of them have even forgotten that they registered for this. So please just beep them, remind them that, hey, it has started. So they need to come on in. And please, 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 I'll just love everyone to participate as much as possible. If there's any point, while the speakers are saying something that resonates with you, just drop it in the chat box. Perhaps somebody can just screen grab that and keep it for reference. And if you can, please turn on your camera. I would love to see your face. It's part of, the interaction. Thank you so much. Hi, Isatu. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead to welcome our first speaker for the day, Dr. Sylvia Lorenzi. Dr. Sylvia is the clinical psychologist and transpersonal psychotherapist with more than 10 years of experience in the clinical field in Italy and 5 years in the Gambia. She has a variety of experiences working in psycho-emotional support, both with young people and adults. Right now, she is committed to improving accessibility to specialized mental health support and psychosocial support services in the Gambia. She hopes that POM's commitment in capacity building will positively impact the Gambian society with the aim of increasing the holistic well-being of individuals, families, organizations, and institutions. So everyone, please let's just make welcome Dr. Sylvia as she comes on and talks to us today on, she's speaking on mental health, what it is and what it is not. Welcome, Dr. Sylvia.
Thank you. Morning once again.
Good morning.
And thank you for inviting me. Background of myself and what I do. And then I like to share a few important points about mental health, what mental health is, and how I like to see mental health. So I am originally from Italy. I married a Gambian, and in 2015, we decided to come and try to live in Gambia with our children. So since then, I am based here. After taking some time to settle with the family, I decided to start to look for a job. As you said, I am a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist. And to my big surprise, I realized that nothing was available in terms of position for psychologists. And so I started to wonder what was my place here, because actually a lot of organizations were on the ground working with vulnerable individuals, and no one was really thinking about mental health and psychological well-being. So I decided in 2018 to found Peace of Mind, which is a non-profit organization, with the idea to fill the gap, with the idea to offer both prevention and response to mental health issues. And since then, it has been a real journey, because the context was not really ready for it. But then let's say that step by step, things are changing. And I have to say thank you also to the COVID, actually, because it really brought the attention more to the mental health of individuals. So we are able to deal both with mild and moderate mental health issues, and also with severe one, the one that need also sometimes the help and the support of the medical side. So we built a referral pathway with the few psychiatrists that are in the country. So I like to see mental health as a continuum, as a line in which we are all moving in. So if we look at the WHO definition of mental health, it said that is a state of well-being in which individuals can reach their full potentials, in which individuals can cope with stressors, in which individuals can function and have a productive and satisfied life. So if we all look at ourselves, we can be very honest in saying that that is not possible 365 years, 365 days per year. So naturally, we can say that is something that sometimes is up and sometimes is down. So that is why, if we look at mental health as a continuum, we can see ourselves moving in this continuum. In one side, we can have, the color green, where we function, we cope with life, we are satisfied about our relationships, we can sleep well, we can eat well. But then there are other colors. After the green, we can have the yellow, in which we just, realize that things are not so fine because maybe something happened. Maybe we had an accident, or a bad news, or an important loss in our life. So we just start, to have maybe some mild mood swings, some sign of isolation, withdrawing, but still we can function, we can go to work, we can still cope, let's say. And if we have a good social network, support for the family, good friends, normally things will just, get back to the green zone, or maybe we can stay in the yellow, but still go ahead with our life. After the yellow, we have the orange, and the orange color is when actually we are kind of injured psychologically and emotionally. So mental health is not something that we can really see as a wound, but I like to say that it's something that can, wound internally, our heart. So there are internal wounds. And when they start bleeding is when we start to see the symptoms. And again, in the orange color, the symptoms become a little bit more severe. So we can have some serious sleeping difficulties. We can, have a unhealthy relationship with the food, but also with people, with our partner. We can start maybe to not to control our anger. We can have the issue of procrastination, for example. Anxiety, sadness, they become more intense and they start to disturb our days. We start to avoid places because of anxiety, for example. We start to not to go to work because we are sad and we cannot deal with our moods. And in that particular color, is like things are getting more serious. So if we are lucky and we have the right support again around, or maybe counselors are around, psychologists are around, and we can easily access to them, we can be able again to develop new coping strategies, to become more aware of what is going on. If we live in a context in which, information about mental health are constantly available, if we have maybe friends again who are kind of motivating us, we can again go back to the yellow color, maybe the green, and continue our life. But sometimes it's not the case, and we just move to the red color, which is the last color of the mental health continuum, in which we develop a sickness. And when we talk about mental health sickness, we know that is something very, very serious, because not always people around us can understand what is going on. Not always we ourselves can really understand what is going on. And that it has a big impact on our life. And yeah, I can say that normally it takes time, a long time, before we can recover from that. So the idea is that we all have mental health. So there is no, we are healthy and big. We are all there. So we are all moving in the different colors. Sometimes we are in the green, sometimes in the yellow. Not everybody will reach the red color, of course, because we are not all sensitive to mental health sickness, but we can say that we all have mental health issues. So the idea is to spread this message everywhere and more, because I come from Europe, and although services are there, I can still problem, you go to the orthopedic. If you have stomach problem, you go to the gastroenterologist. If you have problem with your emotions and with your thoughts, you go to the mental health professional. So I know the way is still very long, but I'm glad that we are here talking about it, because this is very, very important. And I like to say that there is so much that can be done in prevention, and so much that can be taught to people in order to take more care of themselves. As Peace of Mind, we really like also to involve young people and start to talk about feelings and emotions, because that is where, the education in terms of mental health should start. Helping children to understand that feeling different emotions is normal, and it's very sad to see people that are
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I think there's a hitch with her connection, and she should be rejoining soon to round up. Well, so far, I think I love what I'm hearing. I love what I'm listening to, especially the colors of mental health. Somebody was just writing in the chat. Marshall was just writing that, the colors evolved. And it reminds me of traffic lights: green, go, you're good, fine; red, danger, like please stop, And I mean, I really hope that, we don't all get to the red before we start screaming and asking for help. I really love this. I hope she's rejoining soon. Okay, I think more people are joining as well. Hi, Dr. Sylvia, please can you unmute? No, we can't hear you, but I can see your lips moving. You're muted.
Are you hearing me?
Very well now.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I think the connection just got poor. But anyway, I'm done with my contribution. I know the time is limited. So thanks so much for listening to me, and thanks so much for, again, giving this space to mental health and to ourselves at the end, because mental health is part of us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was quite a lovely piece that you delivered. Yeah, we learned so much while you were up. We're just bantering about a few things that we learned, and I'm sure people would have questions at the end of it. Please just stick around. Thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Okay.
So moving on to a second speaker, which is Gloria Ichad. She's a clinical psychologist and substance abuse counselor. And let me just run through her profile pretty quickly. Gloria is an experienced clinical psychologist with over 6 years of professional experience in adult and child psychology. She is a trained CBT and DBT expert, mindfulness practitioner, and substance abuse treatment and prevention expert. She holds a bachelor degree in psychology from the University of Nigeria and a master's degree in clinical psychology from the University of Lagos. She's a member of the National Association of Clinical Psychologists, American Psychological Association, and International Society of Substance Use Professionals. Over the years, Gloria has shown competence in her profession by providing her clients an empathetic environment, focusing on the uniqueness of each client's problems. Her areas of expertise include substance dependency rehabilitation, trauma therapy, couples counseling, family therapy, depression, anxiety, and mental health support. Gloria is going to be speaking to us on the topic mental health and substance abuse, and also recommendation. So ladies and gentlemen, please let's make welcome Gloria Ichad.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Anita. Okay, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia, for that presentation. It was really educating. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, very well. Okay.
Okay, so I'll quickly get to it. I'm supposed to talk about mental health and substance abuse. And when we talk about mental health, I mean, Dr. Sylvia has already given us a background of how we look at mental health using colors. And mental health is very important because we can't talk about health in general without focusing on mental health. And now, and when we talk about mental health also in relation to substance abuse, we'll find out that in recent times, there's been a huge increase in substance use globally. I mean, a 2016 report from UNODC showed that about 29 million people suffer from drug use disorder, which is a lot. I mean, now this 29 million we're talking about are people who have been affected by substance use, meaning that they need treatment, they need some form of rehabilitation or some form of social health support and all that. And that's a lot. And this was 2016, and we're in 2022. So I can imagine how much more we have currently in the world. This is globally, right? And we know that about 45% of these people with XUD disorder have been said to have one mental health problem. So we look at 29 million people suffering from drug use disorder, and out of these 29 million people, about 45% of them have at least one mental health disorder. So that's also a large number. So no doubt, mental health disorder affects and substance use disorder affects people in many ways. It affects functioning, occupational functioning. People can no longer go to work, affects schooling, it affects physical health. Yes, it affects physical health too, because there are a lot of physical health disorders that have been linked to substance use and substance use disorder. Then it affects relationships, families. So you find out that a lot of people with substance use disorder would have issues with family, especially because most times addiction to substance causes some form of isolation that causes the individual to isolate himself from people. And of course, in most countries, like if I'm going to use Nigeria as an example, people generally frown at people who use people who use substances. So you can see that it affects even the relationship with family, with friends. People have a perception generally that people who use substance are bad people or are morally defected or something. So people tend to isolate themselves from people with substance use disorder. So there's always the relational issue they have to deal with. There's the issue with work, finances. There's a slogan I like to tell my clients. I tell them that substance will take you farther than you wish to go. Would always take you farther than you wish to go, because it's not just the same. You know, most people, when having conversations, you hear them say, oh, I actually plan to use maybe a 2,000 naira worth of substance, and at the end of the day, they end up selling properties, you know, giving up their personal belongings just to get more and more of the high. So there is also the financial implication that comes with substance use, and also employment problems, you know, inability to focus at work, loss of jobs and all that, that is also linked to mental, to substance use. And we know that all these things are core things that actually make up an individual with a healthy, that who is mentally healthy. Because if someone who doesn't have a job, or someone who doesn't have good relationship, or is not able to interact, will most likely have some form of defect in their mental health. So this has been linked to substance use in one way. Also, when I talk about substance use and mental health, I like to look at it in two ways. Research has actually shown that we have about three categories of people, two. The first category are people who started using, who substance abuse led to mental health problems. So substance use can actually induce some mental health problems. I mean, some common mental health problems that have been linked to substance use. We have psychosis, to have depression, anxiety, and all that, which can be an after effect of heavy use of substance abuse. And the other way, we're looking at the fact that certain people who have mental health disorders tend to use substances to treat their mental health disorders. So, for example, tobacco has been said to help to ease off the symptoms of schizophrenia and help proper cognitive functioning. So people who have schizophrenia, a lot of people who have schizophrenia have been said to use tobacco or one or two substances, which just to treat how they're feeling or to treat the symptoms. And that's the same. But we also know that when people are down with psychosis, it can actually limit the ability to control the use of substance, which can now make it an addiction. So unlike someone who is probably mentally stable, who can say, or can control alcohol use, for example, someone who has a mental disorder may find that difficult to manage because of the lack of ability to inhibit themselves when using substance. And so a lot of people actually suffering from substance use disorders have co-occurring mental health problems. Like, you know, I recently spoke with someone who was sharing on how, okay, he actually came to me for therapy saying that, oh, I have ADHD. A family member reached out and said, oh, this person has ADHD and we needed to treat. And I was like, okay, so this person diagnosed of ADHD in childhood and said no, but these are the symptoms that he's exhibiting, he's not able to concentrate and all that. And finally, well, we did an assessment, discovered that he had multiple substance use and he was using this multiple substance in very high volumes. So at that point in time, he was actually showing symptoms of anxiety, really, not really ADHD, but there was no way to draw the line. Of course, drawing the line would come from finding out the inception of which came first. Did the mental health problem come first, or did the substance use come first? And you find out that a lot of people live this way with this co-occurring. Just say them say, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I'm having anxiety. But when you trace, you find out that these things were induced by the substance use or substance abuse that this person has had over time. Sometimes you also find out that there are people who have had a mental health problem in the past, but also only gets worse. The substance use only gets worse when they have a breakdown. I mean, I once had a client who had bipolar, and whenever he has a breakdown of bipolar, you find him, for one of the clear signs is that he goes back to smoking weed or cannabis. And then we can tell that, okay, this person is having a mental health breakdown. So mental health and substance abuse, we can't separate it. Sadly, these days, the way the internet and social media preaches about substance use and abuse, it makes it seem like it's something that is acceptable. And a lot of young people are falling prey into the whole menace of wanting to use substance to look cool and all that. But nobody really tells what they don't really tell them is that this substance abuse, especially when the inception of substance use is in adolescence, can actually cause addiction. It's more likely to cause an addiction, and it's more likely to lead to a mental health breakdown in the future. Drugs like marijuana is known to cause irreversible mental illness in individuals who are vulnerable. You know, ecstasy has been linked to a lot of mood disorders, and all these things are researches. There are things that are scientifically proven, but this is what we don't get to see on the internet when people try to legalize substances and make it feel like it is acceptable and people should use that. Generally, this is how I like to look at substance abuse and mental health. I know we would have a lot of questions and more discussions about this, that it's two-way. It can cause mental health problems. At the same time, it can even make mental health problems difficult to manage. Because imagine someone who has schizophrenia or someone who is being managed for bipolar, and just after being prescribed medications for that, goes back to use one substance or the other, to find out that the drugs are no longer working and the symptoms are becoming worse, over time rather than getting better. So that's just an overview of what I'd like to say about substance abuse and mental health. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. I mean, this topic really, really hits home because it's always so difficult for me to see because I had someone very close to me who passed on as a result of mental health and substance abuse that wasn't working at some point in taking the medication. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I know that there are a lot of questions because these are things that people on this side of the world. So thank you. I really enjoyed that. I hope everybody's having a good time so far. Hope you're learning something.
I am. I definitely am.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to be going on to our third speaker for the day, which is Dr. Ichad. She's a consultant psychiatrist, and she's going to be speaking to us on the effect of social media on adolescent mental health and also recommendation. But before she comes on, I would just like to read her profile. Dr. Ichad studied medicine at the prestigious College of Medicine, University of Lagos, where she graduated in July 2007, following up her profession with internship at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH. She went on to work as a medical officer in Clearline Health Maintenance Organization for 6 months, and then proceeded to General Hospital, Ichad, where under the auspices of Lagos State Health Services Commission for 1 year. She started her residency program in psychiatry at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, in January 2011. And during this period, she was president of Association of Resident Doctors and chairman, Nigerian Medical Association, Lagos State Physicians Week in 2015. She became a consultant psychiatrist after bagging the fellowship of the West African College of Physicians in 2017. She has carried out several research work, especially on child and adolescent mental health, and has participated at various local and international conferences on mental health, also speaking at workshops and seminars. What an amazing profile. You're welcome, Dr. Tayo. Please.
Thank you very much for having me. I want to thank the organizers of this talk because I'm glad we are having these conversations now. years back, we couldn't talk freely about mental health. I remember when I first started my residency that people wouldn't come to the hospital to say hello to me, like maybe they are passing in front, Yaba left, I can't enter. I don't want people to see me because of the stigma associated with mental illnesses. So I'm happy we're having these conversations because we need to know that there's no health without mental health. I thank Sylvia and the other lady that spoke before me. They've given the definition of mental health and disorders, but it's important to know that according to the Diagnostic Manual of Psychiatry, mental disorders are defined as clinically significant behavioral or psychological syndromes or patterns that occur in individuals. So it's important to know that if there's a change in a human being, in an individual's behavior, we don't want you to attribute it to any other thing. We want you to check this individual's state of well-being, because it's important that we pay attention to everyone's mental health. It's important to know that 50% of adult psychiatric illnesses actually they begin before the age of 14. So it's important for us to know that our young people, the mental health of our young people is very, very important. And adolescence is a period of life with specific health and developmental needs. And it's important for us to, for adolescents to develop knowledge and skills, to learn to manage their own emotions, their relationships, and also the adolescent period is when individuals acquire attributes and abilities that are important for them to enjoy their adolescent years and also in becoming adults. So the adolescent period is very, very important. I'm sure a lot of us know the definition of social media, and we all have one social media or account or the other. I've had, because even in my line of work at the moment, I'm more engaged with young people. And some of them will tell you, I was on TikTok till 3 a.m. I was making one Snapchat video and all of that. And all of this, they have several accounts several social media platforms that they get onto that really takes their time. It affects them. And it's important for us to know that different adolescents and social media, you see, for adolescents, they see social media as a means to which they connect with their peers. Sometimes these peers don't live close by to them, and they see it as an opportunity to reach out to them. And what we found out is that social media it helps young people form communities that they keep in touch with, and it can provide a place for young people to get social support, And it's important for us to know that adolescents, during the period of adolescence, a lot of young people transfer their, what we call secure base to their peers. That means in the adolescent period, adolescents prefer to get advice from each other. Let's put it that way. At that point in time in our lives, we feel mommy doesn't know much, daddy doesn't really know much. This celeb knows everything. I like the life this celeb is living, and then my friend is doing this. I think I can do it as well. I'm sure all of us can relate to this, okay? But it's important to know that adolescence marks the transition from childhood to adulthood, and there are significant hormonal changes in the young person, even in their brain growth and development, okay? So I'm going to quickly go on to the effects of social media on adolescent mental health. It's important for us to know that due to excessive use of social media, we're not saying people shouldn't use social media, but there has to be a limit to everything. And once young people use it excessively, they can develop what we call depression. There can be anxiety. They can have sleep deprivation, poor body image, body dysmorphic image disorder. They can experience bullying, what we call cyberbullying, and there can be addiction to social media as well. And it's important also for us to know that suicide can also come from excessive use of social media. Now, there's been, the speakers before me have talked a little bit about some of these effects, depression, anxiety, and all of that. But we want you to know that there's been research work that has been done that shows that there's actually a relationship between, there's a significant relationship between social media use and depression. You know, when people, and sometimes when individuals use social media a lot, it can also worsen symptoms of depression, social isolation, there's reduction in social activity, even though these young adolescents, as in young people, are relating with others online. In their physical environment, they still experience loneliness because these friends are far away. And the truth is, some of these friends are not really they're not really their friends, but they don't know. They try to fashion their lives around these people and, you know, try to mimic them or imitate them, more like model after them. And sometimes it just doesn't all go well with them, for them. Adolescents also experience anxiety, you know, when people are so invested in their social media accounts, you know, they feel so invested. So they feel a pressure sometimes to respond quickly when people send them a tag or mention or something. And there's this thing that young people always talk about when they come to clinic. There's this fear of missing out that they call FOMO, fear of missing out. If I don't respond quickly, it will pass, that moment will pass. So there's always this anxiety. And of course, there's a false part also online. People tend to have a lot of anxiety. Like I said, young people, sleep deprivation, always on social media, responding. And a lot of these things, for instance, once you have sleep deprivation, I'm not saying sleep deprivation can, for people that are susceptible to having mental illnesses, they can then develop maybe depression because you've not slept well. And the truth is, all of these motivational speakers that talk about, oh, if you sleep for 6 hours or 8 hours, you slept for 1/4 of your life and all of that, please do not mind them. For young people to develop, for their brain to develop well, for them to have good memory, for them to have good grades in school, for them to be able to relate well with their family and friends, individuals need 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. It doesn't shorten your lifespan, it actually increases it. It helps your mental health as well as your physical health. Remember, we said there's no health without mental health. So when there's sleep deprivation, people that are prone to having a mental illness can then develop it, or they can also have a relapse. It's important to also know that there's this body image thing going around amongst the young people where they want to look like a certain person, and not knowing that some of these things are just filters. And sometimes some of these adults have gone under the knife as they've done some surgical work. But this young person is just fascinated by what they are seeing. And it's important for us as parents to know that there can be significant impact on adolescent mental health from social media use. Cyberbullying is one of the most important things as well. It is very important. Unlike physical bullying, where your teacher or authority figures are present, cyberbullying, it might even be a faceless person. And once it gets, whatever it is that they're using to troll the person gets online, there's a possibility we can't get it off again, and it stays there forever. So cyberbullying is another common effect of social media use, and children can get addicted to social media as well. Suicide is a very, very, very painful endpoint of a lot of mental illnesses. When people have depression, they can complete suicide or attempt suicide. When people are anxious, they can also attempt or complete suicide. So it's important that we give our children, because these adolescents, they just think they're adults. I'm just, they be feeling I'm an adult, I can take decisions. But it's important for us to help them to regulate the amount of social media they use. So my recommendations really will be mental health promotion for parents, educators, and adolescents. It's very important. Because for young people, they sometimes wonder why their parents are very strict. In hindsight now, like we say, hindsight is always 2020. In hindsight now, we understand why our parents were trying to put restrictions in place for us. It's because they didn't want us to be exposed to certain things that could destroy our health, both physical and mental health, okay? So it's important that we have mental education, mental health promotion for parents, educators, adolescents. Ideally in the West, every school has a psychologist. But unfortunately in Nigeria, we've not reached that level. We still have one psychiatrist to about 500,000 people. So you can imagine. So ideally, it would have been good for psychologists, clinical psychologists, to be in every school, both at the high school or even university level, because it's important to have these conversations. We must be willing and very intentional in ensuring good mental well-being for all adolescents by enforcing strict boundaries around social media use. You have to modulate the time spent on social media. You have to be able to know the site your child visits regularly, the type of information they share, because for some people, some children just record things and they're inappropriate and they upload it. And those kind of things can go ahead to affect them. In fact, there was some coroner's inquiry into a suicide in the UK that was just completed, I think in September. And it was just because of cyberbullying. The young lady, I think she was about 16, was bullied consistently, I think because of her looks or something, on social media. In the end, this young girl left a suicide note and completed suicide. So it's important that we as parents, we have to be very intentional in our parenting. Yes, these people are they're almost adults, but we still need to put checks and balances in place. So it's important that parents can also link maybe the account of these kids to theirs to know what they are doing at every point in time on social media. And also, please, it is important to seek help and support for adolescents that are already struggling with negative effects of social media use. So if you find a young person that is already struggling, please do not take them to the church or to any religious or motivational speaker that will start to maybe insult them and scold them. You need to take them to a trained therapist, because we need to know that going to a counselor or a therapist when you're feeling overwhelmed or should be as normal as going to the doctor when you have a flu. Nobody frowns at it when you say, I want to get to my physician because I have a flu. So nobody should frown at it when you say you need to get help for your mental health. So in conclusion, I just want you to know that as parents, we have a duty to protect our kids. We have a duty to moderate whatever it is they're looking at on social media. And it's important to know that there's no health without mental health. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tayo. You spoke with so much passion, of course, as an expert and equally as a parent. Thank you very, very much. That is quite touching. And just as you were speaking, please, I'm going to break the rule for now for just this question that came in while you were speaking. So someone was asking, at what age can one be depressed? Because she's just 12 and she feels she has symptoms of depression, just like she read online. Is there a particular age for depression, or at any age, 12 or before adolescence age, one can actually be experiencing depression?
All right. Thank you for the question. Is it okay if you take all the questions together? Do you want me to answer now?
You can have this one just now, please. Thank you. Okay,
so depression can happen at any time. I've seen the youngest child that I saw that had a diagnosis as psychosis was a child that had that developed psychosis at the age of 3, and I was seen at the age of 9. So the child had untreated psychosis for about 6 years. It's important for us to look out for you to be able to say that somebody has depression, because depression is different from sadness. We need to let that be clear. So if this child has had consistent low mood for 2 weeks or more, and there's a decline in their grades in school. Maybe the teacher is already complaining that they're not paying attention, they've changed in behavior. It's important you get quickly to a psychiatrist. And there are a lot of, there are few child and adolescent psychiatrists in Nigeria. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist as well. If there's anyone like that needs their child to be assessed, it's important that it is done by trained personnel. So depression can happen at that age, especially if there's been maybe there's some genetic predisposition to developing depression as well. So it's important that the child is taken to a psychiatrist for thorough assessment and investigations so that a diagnosis can be made and child can be managed appropriately.
Thank you so much for that. That addresses it. And more questions are flooding in, but before we get to the Q&A, which is more interactive, let's just quickly have our last speaker for today, Dr. Kiki Omeli. She's going to be telling us on the impact of mental illness on our overall well-being and, of course, a goodwill message. Before then, here is just a short profile. Nkiruka Kiki Omeli graduated from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, with an MBBS degree in 2006. She worked as a general physician for some years, but maintained her childhood passion for media and movies. In 2011, Kiki started co-hosting a health program on radio called Balancing Life. In 2012, Kiki got her first role in the movie Married but Living Single, for which she won her first award as the Best Actress in a Supporting Role at the 17th African Film Awards in London later that year. Since then, she has played lead roles in many movies and won several international awards. In 2016, Kiki wrote and produced her first short film about HIV and AIDS called Unprotected, which was based on true events that occurred during her medical school years as part of her health advocacy projects. In 2018, Kiki wrote and produced a feature film, Run, which had its theatrical release in August 2019 and won her the award for Best International Female Filmmaker at Toronto International Nollywood Film Festival in Canada. Kiki Omeli is involved in many charitable health projects and advocacies, notable among which are the Ichad Foundation Against Illicit Drugs and her very own Kickstart Foundation aimed at helping women and children. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's make welcome Dr. Kiki as she takes us on, well-being.
Hi, guys. Hi, thank you so much, Anika. And thank you, Tayo, Dr. Tayo, who is, by the way, my very good friend from medical school. I knew that she just had to be a part of this. Tayo, thank you so much for honoring this invitation. And thank you for your speech. So listen, Mr. Davids and I were talking about how it's very important to talk about mental health in relation to adolescents, right? Because many times people talk about mental health in relation to adulthood, but the adolescents are this really important group of individuals who have grown up in the time of social media. We didn't have social media when we were growing up. And guess what? We still struggle with certain things, certain aspects of social media. We see people on social media doing fantastic things, and then we are like, what am I doing in my life? What am I really doing in my life? Not knowing that wash or packaging. So if we adults are having such a problem dealing with things like that, how much more these adolescents have basically known the internet and social media all their lives. So thank you so much, Tayo. I have many questions, but we'll come to that after my presentation. So I'm supposed to be talking about the effects of mental health on well-being. So like everybody else here today has already defined mental health, so I'm not going to go back to that. I'm only going to say that mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. I'm also going to say that poor mental health will usually influence people's relationships with their children, their spouses, their relatives, their friends, and their co-workers. And poor mental health will lead to problems such as social isolation, and it disrupts a person's communication and interactions with others. Now, I'm actually supposed to talk about the effect of mental health on well-being, but well-being is only one of the domains of the quality of a person's life, right? And the World Health Organization defines the quality of life as an individual's perception of their position in life in context of the culture and value system in which they live, and in relation to their goals, expectations, their standards, and their concerns. So there are 7 domains of the quality of life, of which well-being is only one. So there's well-being, there is control, there is perception of self, there is activity, there is hope or hopelessness. There's also autonomy and choice. So well-being, like we all know, even when Dr. Taya was talking, she spoke a lot about well-being. It is the state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy. So when they say somebody, somebody's in a good state of well-being, it just means that they are very okay with themselves, they're happy, they're content, and all that. That's one of the domains of the quality of life. The other one is control. Control is the extent to which a person feels like they are in control of their lives, the extent to which they feel like everything that is going on in their lives are things that they have basically allowed to happen, or things that they have a say in, right? That's the second domain. The third one is autonomy and choice. Now, autonomy is a person's ability to act on their own values or interests. It's basically self-governance. Autonomy is the freedom of a person to make their own choices or decisions. Self-perception, which is the fourth domain, is the idea that a person has about themselves. How does a person see themselves? Interestingly, more often than not, our perception of ourselves is very different from how other people perceive us. Yeah, I can see Taya nodding her head. Yes, it's very funny because I hear people tell me things sometimes. Somebody once said to me that, oh my goodness, that Kiki, I feel like you're very fragile. And I looked at her and I'm like, fragile? Me? Like, are you sure that you're talking about the right person? So interestingly, we usually see ourselves in a certain way, but other people tend to see us differently from how we see ourselves. The other one is hope. Hope is an expectation of a positive outcome, right? And hopelessness, obviously, is the opposite. And all these domains of life that I have mentioned, they have, just like Gloria said about mental health and substance abuse, about how one has an effect on the other, right? If you have poor mental health, you have a poor quality of life, because instead of having hope, you often be hopeless, right? You feel like you're no longer in control of your life, like you no longer have the freedom to make your choices and decisions. You have reduced physical activity, and you generally not be in a good state of well-being. So poor mental health impacts on the quality of life, because you have a poor quality of life if you're not in a good state of mental health. But conversely, good mental health will often translate to a good quality of life. So I didn't want to specifically talk about well-being, because I said, since these things are all encompassing on the kind of quality of life that we have as human beings. I mean, it's not just well-being. We want to belong. Belonging is also one of those domains, by the way. It's when somebody is a part of a group of people and they feel safe and comfortable and accepted in that group. That's a sense of belonging, which is one of the domains of the quality of life. And if somebody has poor mental health, because they often tend to feel rejected, they would feel like, oh, they don't really belong in a certain place. That might not really be the case, but just because their minds are telling them otherwise, they actually do start to feel that way. So I just really wanted to say that good mental health will impact on your quality of life, because you have a good quality of life, and vice versa. Poor mental health will result in a poor quality of life. That's about it, essentially. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. The Dr. Tyers of this world have have spoken with passion about, and Dr. Tyers, I have a lot of questions, by the way. So when we come to the questions, I'll ask.
We can't wait. Thank you so much, Dr. Kiki. You did so well. Thank you so much. Actually enjoyed, every bit and summary of everything you said. Thank you. And I can see that Isatu is here. She was meant to give us the welcome address. So please, Isatu, can you just say a word or two on something on mental health, please, before you go?
Hello, good morning. It's still morning here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. First, I need to apologize for coming in late. I was struggling with my internet, But I want to thank everyone for registering to join our mental health chat today. I know Saturdays are supposed to be resting Saturdays for most of us, but we have sacrificed to be here and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. By the way, my name is Ichad. I'm the project director for Galstock organization. Briefly about Galstock. Galstock is a non-profitable organization in the Gambia that was founded on the 4th of May, 2018. And our objective is to address issues affecting girls and women in our society. Issues like gender-based violence and traditional harmful practices like FGM and child marriage. And over the years, we have reached out to 100 girls in our country and that are going to be free from gender-based violence and FGM. So I'm really excited to be here. Mental health is it's a bit of a personal topic for me because I've struggled with my mental health over the years. I've struggled with depression and anxiety, and I've learned so much from the speakers, and I can relate to most of the things they have said. So in the Gambia, mental health, there's little or none knowledge about mental health in the Gambia, and I'm glad that we're able to have these discussions because it should be normalized to talk about mental health because there is no mental health without there's no physical health without mental health, just like there's no mental health without physical health. So I'm excited to be here and I'm relating to the topics and everything they've said. And I think we should normalize talking about mental health, and so people can talk about how they feel, and so they can seek treatment and everything, and they're going through. A lot of us are going through mental health, whether we know it.
Perhaps network issue. I think she wanted to say a lot of us are going through mental health, whether we like it or not, whether we are aware or not. I think she's back. Hi, Satu.
Yes, I know I'm going again, this internet. I'm very sorry. So to all the speakers, thank you for taking us through mental health and its management. And to everybody that is listening, thank you for being here. And I hope you learn as much as you can. You can ask questions to the experts and they will take you through mental health and its management. Thank you very much and you're welcome.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you. Thank you. So question for Dr. Tayo. Sometimes I can't sleep. It's not that I'm sad. I get to be hyper during the day. What mental issue would that be?
I figure there's so many questions for me. Would you give me everything so I take you one at a time?
Okay. Do I need to take that one again or I move on to the next?
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. So the next one is masturbation a mental health problem? And this person went on to give context that she's always sad, but after masturbating for a while, she gets happy, makes her happy. So that's all that I have here. Dr. Kiki, I don't know if you want to add.
Yes, I do have a question for Tayo. Tayo, thank you again for that presentation. It was so fantastic. I really enjoyed it and I learned so much and I loved the passion with which you spoke. So thank you so much. I wanted to ask, what would you say is the right age for adolescents to start to use social media or to have social media accounts? Because like I said earlier, even we adults struggle with several things. So I mean, how much more adolescents? So I mean, what would you say is the right age, the age at which they are like well equipped to handle certain things like cyberbullying? Does it even ever happen that a person is ever well equipped? Because even me at my big age, sometimes I have to deal with cyberbullying, and the way I do that is to just not read. I would just rather not read the comments, because if I do read them, I tend to like really feel very bad and really not be able to handle it. So I would just rather not read. So what age would you say is the right age for adolescents?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with saying that we have to normalize talking about mental health. And I'm glad we're having these conversations because of the stigma that has been with mental health for a lot of years. but I know that we are moving in the right direction. The first person. The first person talked about, I can't sleep. What mental illness is that? There are several mental illnesses that part of the symptoms will be problems with maybe starting to sleep or keeping asleep or even having nightmares. For instance, somebody that has post-traumatic stress disorder can have sleep problems. So it depends on what the other symptoms are. That is one of the reasons why it's important for us to get trained personnel to assess individuals, because poor sleep can be a symptom of several mental illnesses. So for that person asking that question, I would advise that you should get to see a psychiatrist. Now, seeing a psychiatrist doesn't mean necessarily you're going to get medications. It might just be that the person would, after assessing you, find out maybe you're just maybe going through a phase and talk to you about what we call sleep hygiene or maintaining a sleep schedule, which can also improve your sleep, because sleep difficulties could come also as a result of environmental factors. For instance, maybe there's too much noise, the weather is just not conducive, your bed is not well laid, you've had a lot of coffee in the day, a lot of energy drinks. So those are the conversations you would have with this trained personnel. One thing I've realized with mental health is the fact that in a lot of countries, for instance, like Nigeria, where there are not enough personnel, a lot of Tom, Dick, and Harry have gone into this field. They are encroaching in the field. And then you have Twitter psychiatrists, Instagram psychiatrists, Facebook psychiatrists, everybody churning out diagnoses. Somebody acts in a bad way. So the person has bipolar. Bipolar is a serious mental illness. Depression is a serious mental illness. It's different from sadness. These are not diagnoses that people should just throw around. Before you can say I have depression or I have bipolar, you need to have gotten that diagnosis from a psychiatrist, okay? So it's important we go in to see Now, the second question is masturbation a mental health problem? Now, it depends on how you see it. A lot of people they do that. When something becomes a mental illness, when that is the only thing you're always thinking of. That's what you think about all of the time. Instead of going out with your friends, you prefer to be socially isolated doing that. Instead of getting into a meaningful relationship, you are doing that. So it's about, the definition of mental health that you've talked about is that psychological, something that is significantly affecting somebody's psychological, thoughts and all of that. So it's important that once it has become the bane of your existence, where it is starting to affect your relationships with your friends, your spouses, if you have one, affecting your relationship with your kids, if you have, affecting work, then you need to see a specialist for help, because mental illnesses impact functioning. So once that's the only thing you can think of and want to do, then you need to see a specialist, and you might not even need medication for that. It might just be that you need to see people like Gloria. Gloria is she's very experienced in what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. So because we know that once you can change people's thinking, their behavior will change. So that's generally what cognitive behavioral therapy is about. You modify the thinking so that the behavior can change. So it's important for you to also to get psychological management, because then the person also talked about when they masturbate, that's when they feel better because from sadness, if I got it right. So if somebody continues to feel low, that's low mood for more than 2 weeks, and there's significant impact on their functioning, you need to see a psychiatrist for thorough assessment, because the masturbation in itself can be a sign that there's something more sinister going on with your mental health, okay? Now, Kiki has asked me a very tough one. What is the right age for adolescents to use social media? When are people really well equipped for cyberbullying? The truth is, nobody is equipped for cyberbullying. It is a terrible, terrible thing. And we need to know that bullying is usually as a result of envy. Unfortunately, for a lot of teenagers, they don't understand that a lot of people just bring their best, the highlight reel to social media. Somebody might be living in a one-bed apartment and go to another person's mansion and take pictures and videos, trying to give a false narrative of who they are not. Then they'll be tensioning this, our young people. Even some adults are tensioned. So there's really no age that anybody's well equipped for cyberbullying. Like I've said before when I first spoke, people that get cyberbullied, some people get to have depression and attempt suicide or even complete suicide. Because usually back home, I remember that we had to visit some schools back then to talk to the educators about having a zero tolerance for bullying. We could achieve zero tolerance for bullying in schools because of the fact that there were authority figures there. But for social media, how do we do that? So that's why it is important to have these conversations with our little ones, even though they don't like to be called little ones. But we have to have these conversations with them. We are trying to protect you. We didn't grow up in the social media era. We understand the challenges, the struggles, and we identify with you that you're struggling. But if we say this is the amount of the quantity of time that you should spend on social media, these sites are forbidden for you to go on, you need to listen, because we're trying to protect you. We're trying to show you the right path to take. Nobody is ever ready or equipped for cyberbullying because it's a terrible, terrible thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Some people get so bullied that it damages their whole body, their perception of themselves, their body image, and then they start to have maybe eating disorder, they start to binge, they start to purge, and they start to restrict their intake because they want to look a certain way. I actually must identify and commend the young people in this era. They are going through a lot. We didn't grow up with so much pressure, but they are going through so much pressure. So it's important for us to have these conversations with them to let them know that, look, let us help you take away a little of this pressure by these strict, regulations and boundaries, putting them in place and following through.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tayo. Very practical measures, actually, and thank you. Our generation, we are very strong. Well, I honestly feel like for every generation, they just have what it takes to take on whatever might come for them. I mean, this is the age where we just need to apply some more measures so that we can be seen. There is a question also for you in the chat by Tope Dairo. How do we deal with screen time with our children? Does this affect the mental health of kids?
You want me to take that now, or there are other questions? All right. So now, talking about screen time for children, I want to talk about what Franklin Roosevelt talked about. He said, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. What that means is our children will model after us. These children see and learn from us, okay? And it's important that we make family time a priority. When I say make family time a priority, there has to be limitations to screen time for children. Actually, research has shown that when children watch too much TV, or they've been on their screen for too long, they can start to exhibit symptoms similar to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, what we call ADHD. They start to have attention problems, they become restless, they jump up and down, they are really activated. So it's important for you as a parent to moderate screen time for children. It's unfortunate that sometimes there are not many parks around where kids can go for outdoor plays. You remember when we were younger, we would go out, we would play with sand. We didn't have bicycle, we rode tires. We didn't have drum sets or all these karaoke things. We would drum with our tin and sticks. We made ourselves happy because we were always outside. And at that time, NTA wouldn't even come up until it was 4 o'clock anyway. So if you like, sit in front of the television, there's nothing that's coming up there. But now we have DSTV, there's Cartoon Network from morning till night. Unless you regulate these times for your kids, they're just going to be stuck on it. And if you do not regulate screen time for kids, apart from having symptoms similar to ADHD, it will affect their grades in school because they won't be able to pay attention, they won't be able to sit still through their lectures, okay? It will affect their attention span, poor grades, they would become socially isolated, they won't have friends. And it's important for kids to develop social skills because it will take them a long way in life. So we cannot afford for kids to become, fixated on screen times. We need to regulate it. So we must build our youth for the future because social media is not going anywhere. Social media is not going anywhere. It has come to stay with us, but we must moderate how we use it. Even as adults, we must moderate how we use it. And I like what Kiki said about when people send messages that are demeaning, to just ignore them. But a lot of kids might not be able to know this. So it is now left for the parents to give this education every now and again. You need to remind them. Once people are trying to bully you, you need to log off. You need to stay away. If you know the person, can you report the person? All those things you need to put in place so that we can safeguard our own mental health as well as the mental health of our children.
Thank you once again, Dr. Tayo. That's pretty clear. A lot of work for the parents in there.
Can I add to something? Can I just say something concerning social media as well? Even apart from adolescents, even we as adults, right? Apart from the tensioning and the oppression and all that, there's so much that happens in this country, Nigeria. And if you're consuming a lot of stuff on social media, there's a lot of negative news. Unknown gunmen this, headsmen that, bandits this, you tend to feel like really unsafe. You tend to feel very sad because a lot of the news is negative. So I think it's okay from time to time to just take a break from social media and not even consume anything at all, because even me as an adult, there are many times that because I'm just consuming all these negative news, I tend to get like really, really sad. I don't want to go so far as to say depressed, just like feeling helpless, like what is really going on in this country and what can we do? So yeah, I think it's okay from time to time to just take a break, because it's hard even as adults, right? Sometimes I'm watching TV, I pick up my phone, then I realize, oh, I've missed something they said, and I'll now take it back. And guess what? I'll take it back and I'm still looking at my phone again. I'll miss it again and I'm an adult. So how much more children having to cope with all this and to deal with all this? So I agree that we as parents and the older ones, we do have a lot of work to do as regards the exposure of adolescents to social media. Thanks again, Dr. Tan. Thank you.
Thank you too for adding that, Dr. Kiki. Just as you were speaking, I had to type in panic attacks. When you see all the negativity, you just begin to just like, what is going on? And one thing that I usually do for myself is that I get to curate my Google feed. If I search for something, I realize that it begins to bring out the news because of the algorithm. What is it called again? Algorithm.
Algorithm.
Right?
Yeah, the algorithm. Yeah.
So from time to time, I just get to clear my cookies, clear my cache, history and all of that, and so that whatever I'm getting is fresh
Yeah.
content that I prefer, that I like to see. So I think that could help.
Yeah,
Okay.
protecting it, that's protecting your mental health. That's a thing. Whatever it is, you know, that will impact you negatively, you stay away from it. So you're protecting your mental health. We all need to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so to Gloria, please, somebody has a question and she goes, when I smoke, I feel better. I started smoking when I was 13 and now I am 25. Nothing makes sense to me if I don't smoke. What should I do?
Okay. Can you hear me? Sorry, I
Yes,
had to turn off my video. Okay, so most likely the chances that you're already dealing with an addiction, all right, and there will be need for you to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist for that effect. Because if you're saying that when you smoke, nothing makes sense, that's already an addiction, right? So I would advise that you see a professional, a psychiatrist, so that it can properly diagnose and help you to walk through the whole addiction process.
Pretty clear, short and simple. Thank you. Okay, there is another question for you coming up. So in a group chat that I belong to, somebody had posted a tweet by NDLEA Nigeria saying that over 10 million Nigerians use cannabis, and despite the substance being banned in the country, recently there have been calls to legalize the illicit substance in Nigeria due to economic and medicinal values. So as a substance abuse expert, please, what do you have to say about this move? You know.
Okay, so when it comes, like I said, there's a lot of hype about substance use right now, currently going on. You know, people have normalized this so much that it feels. I mean, you'll be amazed that the number of people using substance, especially young people. You know, both females. I mean, in the past we used to have more males doing these things, but in recent times we find out that we have a lot of females, young people that just they sing about it, you know, they make jokes about it. It's almost like it's the next in thing going on. However, what everyone's saying, oh, it has medicinal value, because this is a very strong argument I get from clients a lot. They tell you, oh, it helps me. Fantastic. They're not lying when they say, oh, it's substance. When I take cannabis, it heightens my experiences. It helps me. Nobody's saying it doesn't do all that. But now we're looking at what are the disadvantages of this thing. So as much as it can be helpful and people say, oh, it helps me to calm down, it helps me to do all this, the long-term effect is what is usually a big problem. And these long-term effects are usually, it gets out of hand. So the person who's arguing about using substance to deal with maybe medicinal values and all that, the question I like to ask them is, was it prescribed? Who prescribed it? I mean, who prescribed it for you? Because we all know substance abuse, yes, we focus on psychoactive drug, but we also know that self-medication is even a form of substance abuse too. So who prescribed this medication for you? And most of this medication used where I know they use this kind of the THC is used for a lot of, I think, hair products and some other things that it can be helpful for. But some of those things, they have gone through a lot of processing and all that. But then these ones that are out there on the street, nobody prescribed it. There is no measure to say, oh, this is how many percent that will be okay for the body. So we can't even that argument, I don't think it holds enough water, because the negative impact we see is actually alarming, and it's worse than any other medical benefits you might be getting from it. And also, there are other alternatives. So if you say, oh, cannabis helps me to do this, there are other alternatives to this. Someone says, oh, I use it to sleep, it helps me sleep. Yes, but you can, like Dr. Taya talked about sleep hygiene and all that, which can actually help you to sleep better, and other things that can be helpful. So yes, and I know that sometimes I question some of the things that are being legalized, not just in Nigeria, even worldwide. I mean, just like the whole LGBT thing used to be a disorder, after a while, because of a large number of people accepting it, it was just passing as acceptable. I hear right now that in some parts of the world that children, very little children, can make decisions about their gender and all that, which is really sad if you ask me. But just because a large number of people accept this thing, it is passed on as a law and becomes acceptable. But nobody is really talking about the long-term effects of these things and the dangers that these things are causing. So when it comes to that, my own focus would be, who prescribed the drug? Who told you you could use that? And even if you're using it, for how long? Because substances are very addictive, the people who use it get into it, and like I said, it takes you farther than you wish to go. It all starts off with, I take it at night only to sleep. And before you know it has taken your whole day. And that's the only thing that you get to think about and the only thing that you do. So yeah, there are all those arguments, but it's more about the individual. For what purpose? Is it really worth it? What are the disadvantages that this thing can cost you in the long run? Those are some things to consider. I mean, we can't go about accepting everything just because a large number of people think it's okay, or because social media paints it like it's the correct thing to do. So yeah, so that's my own opinion on that.
Floor is open. Anybody else has a question before we begin to wind down? Yes, Dr. Tayo, please.
Thank you very much, Gloria, for answering that question. You did a good job with it. But I'm going to add to it that I've seen a lot of patients telling me when they use weed, THC, that I was anxious and then I started to use weed, or I was feeling sad and then started to use weed. What we know for some is that they use weed to medicate themselves so that they can have relief of symptoms. But what they don't know is that there's something called rebound anxiety. So the anxiety that made you use maybe one stick of the weed. Yes, you might feel better temporarily. But once the effect of that weed wears off, you are going to get worse anxiety. So instead of doing that, like Gloria said, look for a trained professional, that's a psychiatrist, that would assess you thoroughly, do some tests on you, because some physical illnesses actually mimic mental illnesses, okay? So once the psychiatrist has done a thorough assessment, investigation, examination, they will make a diagnosis and prescribe you with the appropriate and appropriate medication to treat the anxiety or the depression or whatever other mental illness that has been the individual has diagnosed. So it's important that you approach a professional and not all those Instagram psychiatrists or Twitter psychiatrists. No. We're talking about professionals that are registered with the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria that regulates the practice of physicians. So in case there's any mismanagement or anything, you have a body to report to. Just like Gloria has her own body that she's affiliated to. If she does anything that you think is not, is not professional, you can report her to our association. If I do anything that you think is not professional, you can report me also to the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. So we're not talking about people that just encroached into the psychology or psychiatry space. No, we're talking about people that have the degrees, the qualification, and expertise. So those are the people you are looking for. And it's important for us to reiterate that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tayo. So I just wanted to mention that perhaps there are people here who want to keep the conversation going somehow, maybe on a one-on-one basis. If it's okay, can they reach out to you, Dr. Tayo, Dr. Kiki, Gloria? Perhaps you can drop your email address in the chat box or your LinkedIn profile, so everyone could just have a screen grab and then reach out to you personally after.
Okay, yes, please. I'll drop my email address in the chat box right now. And I wanted to add to something that Tayo said. actually in this age of social media, everybody's an expert, right? So it's important that, like Tayo said, you actually go to the professionals, because there are so many people on social media, they have so many followers. They basically made themselves an authority on the things that they have no training on. And in the event of them doing something wrong, there's nobody to report them to. There's nothing, So people need to be careful of them. Social media, in quote stars, and go to the actual professionals for help. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, there's sometimes it could be constraints, for those who cannot really afford to reach out to professionals. So, are there actually professionals who, I don't know, who could offer their services for free in this regard, especially when it concerns mental health?
So you know what, this thing that you're talking about now is very dicey, because many of these people that make themselves an authority on certain subjects on social media without any actual kind of training, it's because they're trying to amass the followership in order to make money. Now, the professional, the person who is actually a professional and licensed to practice and do all that, the way that they can make their own money is by you coming to see them and paying a consultation fee and all that, right? So for the people that cannot afford it, therein lies the question: how do people go about it? So that's what's dicey about it, because whoever is providing these services has to eat, and if they are giving away their services for free, then how do they eat and how do they maintain themselves? It's just like how doctors, when you go and see a doctor, by doctor, I mean maybe not like a psychiatrist, maybe like a physician, and you pay a consultation fee. But then many people don't want to do that. So because you have access to this doctor, you're calling the doctor on the phone to ask about. I mean, if you keep doing that, how is the doctor going to eat? How are they going to feed and take care of themselves? And don't forget that as a doctor, you cannot take care of anybody if you have not taken care of yourself. It's even in the Hippocratic Oath. So it is a very, very dicey situation. Maybe unless the doctor decides to, maybe as part of some kind of outreach, offer free services, or if they have like some kind of organization. But in the absence of that, I mean, nobody's really going to do anything for free. So that's where it's dicey.
Okay, thank you for that.
And then you can access your services for free. Please tell us. So let's come. Yeah, Dr. Tayo.
Thanks, Kiki, for that, because the truth is nothing is free. Even in Freetown, nothing is free. Let's put that on the side. However, jokes apart, the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Yaba is, I'm not trying to advertise, but I'm trying to say that every department of a teaching hospital has a psychiatric unit, Their services are not expensive, and you meet our teachers there, people that trained us. So you are promised affordable. Maybe getting a card to see a doctor might not be, for you to register might be 2,000 naira to get a card. And then the medications might not even be up more than maybe 1,000. I don't think it's too expensive if you cannot afford the private services, okay? So those teaching hospitals have psychiatric departments, and they are standalone psychiatric units as well. Even federal medical centers all over the nation have psychiatric departments where you can see psychiatrists, psychologists, occupational therapists, social workers, that because the truth is, management of mental illnesses is not just medication. It comes with medication, psychology, that's talk therapy, and as well as psychosocial support, so all of that you can get from this facility. So you don't have to go to the expensive ones. And then again, one thing we found out for doctors is that a lot of Nigerians will tell you they can't afford your services, but they'll rather pay a quack something more expensive than you as a trained physician asked for. So you see, that's where what Kiki was saying, where we just don't understand. Instead of paying so much to a quack, why don't you just go to these facilities that have been set up to support people with their mental health, okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Tayo. I really feel like, this is not, we should not end this chat, we should not end this conversation, because, it's really intense and it's something that we need to keep talking about in our different spheres. Just heighten the awareness, like what we can do and how we can help. as much as possible. It's a thing to keep driving. Thank you so much also for dropping your email addresses and LinkedIn profile. Anybody has anything else to say? Because this is winding down. We've overshot our time and we need to go. Okay, in the absence of...
You're trying to say I guess you know they're already traumatized.
Hi, Gloria. We can't really hear you. We can't hear you. It sounds like you're... It's a bit better, yeah. I'm sure we can.
Okay. Okay, so I was saying that I wanted to add to what Dr. Tayo said about visiting quacks, because sometimes after going to the quacks, you end up getting to the professional, but then you're already traumatized, or you have just made the situation worse than it was at first. I've gotten to meet a lot of clients. I tell you, oh, I met someone who was doing a free therapy and this was my experience, and they come to therapy with those baggage. So the first thing you're doing first is to, first of all, dismantle all the walls and all the baggage that the person is coming in before you even go into the major thing. And of course, that's more sessions and that's more money for you too. So just to be safe, it's better to just go to the right person, get the proper treatment from the beginning, and save yourself all the stress of having to deal with quacks and all.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Dr. Tayo. Thank you, Dr. Kiki. Thank you, Isatu. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging around and for just having this chat with us. I'm just going to invite our community director at Ichad to give us closing remarks. Mr. OK Davids, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good
you look
morning.
Great.
Thank you, and good morning and good afternoon, everybody. And I want to really appreciate everyone for joining. And it's really been amazing. I've been making notes. And Dr. Tayo, thank you. You joined from the end of the earth, from Australia. My God, thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate it. And then Dr. Kiki, well, you are home. Thank you so much, Dr. Kix. Really appreciate. And Gloria, thank you very much. We see what you're doing with Lagos State government. Thank you, Gloria. Well done. And also Dr. Sylvia, even though she has gone, thank you very much. And our partners in putting this together, the Kickstarter Foundation, Kiki Omeli's Kickstarter Foundation, the Guest Talk Gambia, and the Ichad. I want to thank every one of you for putting so much effort. It's so unfortunate, just like Dr. Tayo said, it's so unfortunate that most of the things that that causes these mental health issues have come to stay. In fact, they'll be modified. In fact, more will come. So conversations like this should be done often, so we can all engage and learn how to navigate not just adolescence now, but adulthood, because it's not even easy. It's not easy for adults. It's not easy for, imagine Dr. Kiggs as a celebrity, she complained about cyberbullying. So imagine what a random teenager or a random person on the internet will be facing. So I want to thank every one of you for joining. This is really amazing. And we're going to upload these videos on YouTube, so you can go over and over again to watch. Thank you very much. And on this note, I want to say thank you, everybody. And I really appreciate it. And thank you, Annie is the Director of Strategy and Planning, Ichad Foundation. Thank you so much for what you've been doing, and I really appreciate it. And all the Ichad team, Kickstart team, and the Guest of Gambia, I want to appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much. And our guest, thank you. You are the real MVPs. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it, and have a blessed day.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Cakes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to know, are we good? Like,
Yeah.
can everybody know?
We just said the grace now, benediction, so we can.
Okay, before we go, I want to say thank you to everybody again for coming. Tayo, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.